What's up, guys? This is Mana, and welcome back to yet again another one of my videos. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about World of Warcraft Revelations, which is a private server I've been covering for a long time. And I went ahead and made a video on some huge news that Right by Faith dropped, which is basically new class, new stuff they're doing in the game, and what they're going forward with Revelations WoW. And I was able to go ahead and ask him a couple of questions that he answered here, and this is going to be basically the next video in the series for World of Warcraft Revelations. So here are the questions real quick before we get into what he said, basically. So the first question is, what are your future plans for Rev WoW? The second question is, what are some changes going further you'd love the community to know to ensure that they are in good hands? So I was saying like mod-wise, Discord-wise, and to feel that they are now in a better place for the community. Those are the two big main ones I wanted to ask him, and then here's the two next ones that are kind of like, if you want to answer these, you can. So the third one is any info you'd like to dump, like new areas, classes, dungeons, lore. And the fourth one is, will players that played before the server went down get any special mount or title? So I'm like, think of Final Fantasy 14 when they had their little event where the game basically went bye-bye. Those are basically the questions I wanted to ask them, and basically the questions that the community wanted to know, because I asked them like, yo, what do you guys want to know? And these were like the big main four ones that were popping up every single time. So strap yourselves in. This is going to be a long one, guys. Grab your snacks, your drinks, and let's go ahead and see what Wrecked by Faith has to say to the World of Warcraft Revelations community.
I don't script anything that I say. I just try to have the top of my head so that way it's honest and to the truth. But anyways, here you go. The future of Revelation WoW is about basically righting our wrongs. We had a lot of issues in our last release. For example, the starting zone was a complete bottleneck. Learned our lesson on that. Murlocs were having issues in the sense that they couldn't talk. Talents were having complications. Our leveling system was having complications. It was problematic on every single aspect that we were working on. The only thing that wasn't basically burning is our idea. And our idea of Revelation WoW, from the beginning, was to have a custom World of Warcraft server where you couldn't tell the difference if it was Blizzard or players who made it. Now, looking back at it now, it's probably laughable considering the majority of you remember your experience on the server. But that was originally the idea. It wasn't meant to go down in flames or anything of that nature. And we weren't money hungry people, because if you saw, we didn't want to release the shop until it was over a month and a half post release because of all the issues. All these issues, however, allowed us to learn, so to speak, and be able to grow off of it, even though it shouldn't have. And that's something we want to fix coming up this release. Moving forward and trying to get past all the drama and everything of that nature, we want to be ready for this next time. And that means between the last beta and release, nothing's going to change. There's not going to be extremely significant differences. It's going to be ready to launch. That is the final draw, basically. And the question is, how do we get there? How do we get there is based off of community engagement now. Originally, we had a lot of rules in place, and this will go into my secondary question, but we want to make it so that way the community is more involved this time. Even though we involved the community a lot, it felt like we didn't involve them in the right ways. So, for example, in the next coming weeks or months in this nature, what we're going to be doing is we won't be releasing, but we are going to allow you guys to be able to play our game in different ways. For example, every, say, week or 2 weeks, or God knows when we do it, but we'll invite a group of you guys over, and we'll be saying, hey, complete this dungeon, tell us what you guys think, or you guys want to do some PvP, let's try this out. And basically, we're going to do these little mini activities with you guys and slowly build it up to the point where, okay, we check out the first time, we see how you guys did, we see if there's any bugs, and we try to get all the way up until it's basically bug-free without rushing. Now, it's never going to be bug-free. I'd love to say it will hit that point, but considering of how things are, we're not going to hit that peak. I'm almost sure, but there's always going to be some type of bug. Hopefully, it's just on the lesser side. However, with that being said, we're going to try to have the aim of making it bug free. The second thing to keep in mind as well is we want to make sure that all of our systems are ready to go. Originally, we planned to only do 1 to 20, and then we were going to go into development, do 20 to 40, and then say 40 to 60. This time going around, we want to make it so that way at least our base is 100% complete, to where you could go 1 to 60 without a problem, and then from there, say we do one raid at a time and progress in that nature. Specifically speaking, and while it's a little bit in the future, our idea is next time we get towards a release, we're going to issue a roadmap to where each and every single specific week will have something happen, or say a month. That is guaranteed. So that way you know, okay, if it's the first phase is between 1 to 10, it's going to stay level 1 to 10. Then a month later, 20 to 40. Maybe after that, then it's a jump between 40 to 60. It's probably going to be lesser intervals of that nature, so to speak, but nevertheless, you're going to have a guaranteed roadmap. For all the players that were part of our initial process, whether you start out in the very beginning of a beta user, you ended as a beta user, I will be giving everyone a specific mount. However, this mount isn't going to be usable until you have writing skills, so that way it's fair. I'm going to be giving out a giant Murloc mount. Now, the idea was for Murloc boss to be giving off this mount. However, I feel it's only fair given everything that's happened recently that the way you get the Murloc mount is based off of everyone who was previously already holding an account and was part of us and understood our history a bit more. There may be a time where perhaps we issue different variations in the future, but the original OG Murloc mount will be based off of you guys being part and having an account already for us. Now, being said, the new account's already possible to be made because we have our website back up. However, only the accounts that were active beforehand and were made, only the accounts that were made beforehand will have access to that mount, and it'll be waiting for you. The final thing I want to touch upon is the quality of life aspects for this question. The next section, though, however, is the quality of life aspect. What we want to do, and at least the hope, is to make mounts, for example, be able to go and be across accounts. We want to make it so that way you're able to, in fact, play a shaman as a Tuskar. We want you to be able to do a shaman as a dwarf. We want you to be able to have fun, but at the same point also allow it to our lore. And obviously these things can happen. It's just a matter of how are we going to get it to happen. In addition to that, we're going to be making more tweaks to our talent tree because it was clearly not ready to go as far as concept even. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about our player housing. The player housing, as far as this goes, it's fully done already. It's ready to go on the back end. Now what we have to do is set up the items for all you guys to be able to create and do. So we're working on the front end of that, so to speak. Now, the way housing is going to work within our world, and I haven't posted anywhere else, but you'll be able to do it here, is within the world itself, you're going to have plots of land. These plots are not going to be, these plots are not going to be phased. You're going to be able to visit your friends and have fun and things of that nature, but they are going to be expensive because they are in the open world. That means you're going to have to be playing really hardcore, if you will, if you want a piece of that land. But what happens if you're not one of those hardcore players, but you still want to have some sort of player housing? Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be implementing a kind of apartment system. It's really difficult on the Horde side because of the models that are currently in place, but we're working on it. We're thinking of more so giving the Horde or the orcs some sort of dungeon type of housing rather than actual buildings. But nevertheless, you're going to have a sort of apartment complex where you're not going to be able to go outside, but you'll be able to have an interior and you'll be able to design your whole interior housing. Now, if, for example, you do want to have a house in the open world, you can buy it off of players. At least that's the hope for now. You can buy it off of players and you can go that route. But we're doing it very similar to life, where if you're rich, you can have, a nice house. But if you're a poor person like me, then you can just have an apartment. Now, the apartments themselves will be as close as possible to infinite. Um, However, on the other hand, the houses in the real world will be very finite, and each zone will have, or finite, and each zone will have a selected amount of slots. But we're trying to make it so that way every zone has specific slots. Now, in order to tell whether or not there's plots open or things of that nature, you're gonna have to go into the world and visit those locations. The last question that I'll cover in regards to this is the big question. What about my old account? It's a big problem because me and the dev team have looked at this over and over, and the only real way in order to make sure that our next launch goes smoothly is if we remove all the accounts, which is really rough to say, considering how much time everyone put into it. However, what I will be doing, to the best of my ability, is throughout the entire testing process, I'm going to let you guys use your old accounts because we still have all the data, of course. And we're most likely, if possible, having a testing realm to where us devs will be actively working on it, of course, but you'll be able to have your old account on that realm. Now, as far as the mounts and things of that nature, like I said, we're trying to do it account based, so it's very possible that it's going to 100% move all over. But if there are things that do not move over, such as, for example, as I was saying, the Murloc mounts that we're going to be giving out, or the old OG mount that we gave before of the horse, then we'll move that over manually for everyone. I do want to emphasize, though, that this is a new leaf, and because it is a new leaf, it's going to be a lot of work for all of us, of course, myself included. One of the things moving forward that we want to do as far as the community is reach out to everyone who was basically hurt by previous founder or previous leadership, so to speak. And so, for example, as you could see, Zero's back in action. He's working on the launcher, and we're clearing his name in the best way possible by having him work on the same project that basically, in a way, disowned him. We have Lambie coming back into the lore and working more or less partial time or full time without it being a full-time job on the lore to try and make it as close to Blizz-like as possible. For the Discord, we're changing a lot of rules up. We're removing the fact that you can't ping founders. I always thought that was a stupid rule. That's going to be removed, so now you can ping me whenever you want. Even if your day's really bad, you can just ping me and have at it. I don't care anymore. Not in a bad way, in a very positive way. I want to have a friendship with you guys, especially since you're the players. I mean, you deserve it. I'm a player. I want to have fun in my own game. And on the last release, I didn't feel like I could have fun. Especially with all the issues and all the drama and everything else going on. I didn't get a chance to play my own game. With the staff, in addition to the changes of you being able to ping, we're also going to lift a lot of the stupid rules or the quote-unquote normal rules of our server where you couldn't swear. We're going to be lifting that to where you're going to be able to, but just in a moderate use. We want families to be able to play with their kids and experience firsthand what World of Warcraft is like without feeling like it's a toxic pool of death. The other thing we want to implement as well is basically a community manager. Let me rephrase. The other thing we want to implement as well is another community manager that you guys love. Originally it was Sonaro. Snar left because of bad terms to deal with founders, aka me and Will. I won't go into details of it, but I'm trying to reach out to him as well to get in contact with him. And because I know everyone loved him as a community manager, and I felt bad the way things left. And in addition to that, when it comes to a staff server, because we have two different servers, we have the public Discord and we have a staff Discord, because there was some exploits running around where some people could see some of our channels and things of that nature. So we made a secondary staff server. And what's going on over there is we're having a lot of our old staff members come back. As I said before, Zero is back, Lambie's back, but we have a lot of other people coming back as well that want to be kind of kept anonymous or are willing to even help us, if you will, get us back on our feet, which is a really big positive, especially considering everything that happened. Something I want to implement as well, and for everyone to understand inside of this is, as ridiculous as this sounds, I'm not like other private server owners. I'm not in it for the money. I made Revelation WoW simply because I love World of Warcraft and I've played it since I was 4 years old, and I want other people to have fun. So in a way, people can see me as soft, or other folks can see me as someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But over the past few years, I've learned quite a lot, even despite if it was for the negative. And being honest here, my better half was meant to kind of lead me in that regard to making this thing successful, in the sense that everyone was happy, and that just wasn't happening. The classes themselves and what we're going to be doing is something a little bit different. We're going to implement the Necromancer class, and with the Necromancer class, it's basically going to be off of the Diablo 4 series, while at the same point having our own twist. We want you to be able to do things like tame undead, for example, or do massive AoE damage and really cool fun stuff like blood healing. In the most recent expansions of WoW, you could do like shadow healing and vibes. We don't really want to touch or dabble into that aspect. We want to go towards a blood healing for this situation, or blood magic in that regard. We're going to be revisiting our starter zone. We're going to completely pull it out. We're going to basically we're going to be revisiting our starter zone. We're going to gut it out, and we're going to implement something completely new. It's no longer going to be our funnel, so to speak. You're going to start at the original locations of the starter zone. So if you're an orc, you're going to start in Duratar. If you're a human, it's Northshire, so on and so forth. And you're going to have a side quest that is basically the actual legendary main quest that will lead you throughout the world. In addition to that, you'll be having all the other pieces that I told you. So that way, now you have that other bit. We'll be dropping lore pieces here and there and snippets to make things a lot better and understandable. I'm going to go onto our website. I have a lot of work that I'm doing in the sense of getting the staff team all together. We've been doing weekly dungeons. That's our setup, is to just start going through the game together and having fun and being able to do a lot of team building together, figure out how we're going to be approaching certain zones. As it currently stands, this is kind of our to-do work list. So everyone knows this, because we want to try to be as transparent as possible now. We are basically working on the 20 of 40 currently. Now, that means, for example, we're wrapping up Thousand Needles right now with the quests. We're then working right now, because we have two separate groups. We have a lore group that has the quest going through, and we also have a group of GMs who then go through as well and have... rephrase. We have two separate groups within our GM rings. We have GMs and we have lore. Now, the GMs will go in first to a zone and place down all the NPCs that the lore guys say basically are required and for the quests. Then what ends up happening after is the GM team will then move on to the next zone while the lore guys start writing up quests for those zones, or say completing them, because the lore guys work with our SQL guys. And this is basically the process that's currently been working very well for us right now. So currently we're working on Thousand Needles for the lore, and right now we're having our GMs work on Stone Talon. After that happens, we'll be moving to Ashara. Then from there to Winter Spring, and so on and so forth. I don't want anyone to be worried about the Eastern Kingdom side. For lore purposes, it is remaining relatively the same. There will be slight modifications like you have seen before, where Stranglethorn Vale has changed quite a bit, or for example the Great Desert. The Great Desert is currently undergoing a lot of work to looking a lot better, basically. But nevertheless, our whole idea is basically to put all of this into a nice bow tie, because it is a lot, and we want everyone to have a blast. And we're going to be taking our time this time.